Hey, everybody, welcome back to Expedition U here with Jason Franklin. James Toller's not with us today. He is out, I'm sure, buying or selling something somewhere. I've got an awesome guest with us, Andrew Franklin from the Franklin team. No relation other than business and friendship. So here at Expedition U, as you all know, we like to talk about all things investing, but what we really like to focus and hone in on is how are you investing in yourself? How are you educating yourself? And as importantly, if not more so, who has invested in you along the way and who are you bringing along with you on this ride to the moon? So Andrew, with no delay, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Just off a week vacation, Disney, and good to be back and talking to people like yourself and getting back to the real estate grind.
So you got to tell me, how exhausted were you when you left Disney?
Oh man, I was with a 10 and 14-year-old and then my wife, and they wanted to do like 12 to 14 hours at the park. So there was a couple times I was like, I'm gonna go back to the room and I'll catch y'all at the next park. So it was exhausting, and it wasn't 100 degrees, but it was probably 90 degrees and 90% humidity. So exhausting is sort of the definition of or the theme of the vacation.
So I have learned, so my wife and my kids are all Disney fanatics. I can't tell you how many times we've taken them to Disney World, but I have learned two things. One, don't go in the heat of the summer. And two, we made a colossal, it was great. It was really pretty and beautiful. We went there actually on Christmas about 3 years ago. And I had put it this way, you know how big Disney World is. They stopped letting people in. It was terrible. I mean, I'm a people person Monday through Friday and whenever I'm helping clients, but then I go home and shut the blinds and, I'm in a sausage factory, trying to watch the parade. And it was daunting at best.
Yeah. I will heed your advice next time about the summer. I actually we did Universal for the last day, and I actually enjoyed that a little bit more. So
Universal is very interesting. Well, Andrew, let me get to the meat and potatoes. So you and I have been friends now for about 2.5 years, probably.
Yep.
Started some early calls. So a little back history, a lot of people know is that, I've kind of bounced around in the beginning of my real estate career, started at a RE/MAX office that went defunct on my third month. So that was fun. Then went over to a great RE/MAX office at Interloops, which I loved. Coldwell hung the carrot out in front of me. And so I went over there for a couple of years and, had some great production. Ultimately just wasn't the vibe for what we were looking for to grow the way we wanted to grow. And when I started doing my investigations, and I still kick myself because I started looking at EXP about 1.5 years before I left, and then when I finally made the transition and I was looking at stock prices and growth and everything else, I was super mad, but we won't go down that road. So when I decided to go to EXP, and I hadn't even committed to it, but I was like looking around and, because of my martial arts background, and you've heard me use this reference before, we always taught our students, don't ask a third degree if you can ask a fifth degree, right? If you got that question. And so what I looked for was, I want to go find the biggest, baddest dude in town that's already at EXP and see what they've got going on. And you and your father, Jimmy, are the guys that I sat down at the table with at, I think it was at one of his properties over in the west side of town.
Yeah, I think we met at Lola's, maybe.
I think it was.
Right.
I think he sold that property though, right?
They did sell it. Yeah. They did sell it. Yeah.
So, I mean, that started and that launched a multitude of things. I mean, it was really a launching platform for us as a team. When I came over, we had myself and 3 agents. We're onboarding our 17th agent. We've got 2 more that are in real estate school right now. We've got another one that's looking to come in. I mean, so we were pushing 25 agents by the end of the year, and I don't think we're gonna have a problem making that. And I really give you guys a lot of credit in that regard. And it's not that I'm not the guy that blows up your phone all the time asking questions, but I pay attention. I'm looking online, we get to interact, but you guys are always there if I need you. But I guess my first question for you is kind of tell us, the 2-minute, because you didn't start in real estate. I mean, you had a big fancy job up on the East Coast, right?
Yeah. Well, I actually started, on the West Coast in San Francisco. So I graduated in 2008, and I actually had a couple job offers to go in the investment banking world. And I joke that it took my parents like 3 or 4 years before they realized I wasn't a stockbroker, that investment banking, there's a lot to investment banking. You can do, what I mean by that, you can do different stuff. But what I was doing was mergers and acquisitions. So a company would build themselves up. We were in a small middle market. So they build themselves up, an entrepreneur, and then they would say, okay, I'm at 10 million of EBITDA. I want to sell my business. And they would reach out to an M&A investment banker, which is what I was. And we would help, value the company, market the company, find a buyer. And that'd be and then go through the diligence process. That'd be a, 6 to 9 month process if everything went smoothly. So that's what I was doing for 6 years. I grew up in a real estate family. My dad started in real estate before I was born. And then my mom was his first assistant, and then she got her broker's license. So I grew up with two brokers in my life. But my dad always sort of talked to me about money and business and entrepreneurship, but never really about real estate as much. Like, I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what title insurance was. I didn't know that he was showing property. I just knew this was like, he was at my basketball games with the phone glued to his ear. But I didn't know what, anything about sort of real estate, and he didn't talk to me about all that. So I graduated and went into finance. I liked finance. Some fraternity brothers of mine, they were making really good money at 22, 23 years old. So I decided to do that, and then moved to our New York office. And after about 5 years, I wanted to get back to Texas, and switched investment banks and went to Dallas. And then, just saw a lot of people unhappy and traveling 3 days a week. And, if they had a bad quarter, my bosses, they had a bad quarter, they could be fired. And, I just, at that time, they gave all of us a bad bonus, which in investment banking, a lot of what you make is a bonus. Like, at that time, I was getting a 6-figure bonus, and that number was about half of what I was expecting the new firm I went to. And so I remember I walked out of that meeting and called my dad crying. I was actually crying. And 2 weeks later, I was in Houston studying for my real estate exam. So,
that's so interesting that you say that, because I mean, one, I appreciate you being so honest, but two, I think everyone that's motivated at some point, I mean, there are exceptions to this rule, but at some point you reach this linchpin moment. And I think the biggest difference that I see in the people that have either just gone on into the stratosphere, and those that stay in this life of mediocrity, are the ones that they see that linchpin moment and that either shrink away from it and say, well, this is the path I chose. I've just got to, I think, and there's this old saying of trudging down the happy road to destiny, right? Or you go 2 weeks later and get your real estate license and decide, I'm going to do something different. I mean, and that's not a small decision. I mean, there had to be a lot of angst in that.
Yeah, I mean, I had to buy out of my lease. The good thing is I had a big network. I grew up in Katy, and so I did have a network, and I did have my dad, who built a great business, and my sister had been working in the business already. But we had been talking about potentially doing that at some point. So it wasn't the first conversation, but
Sure.
That was the thing that sort of drove it into overdrive. And yeah, so I didn't know where I wanted to live, because if you include college, I was away for Houston for about a decade. So 4 years college, 6 years working in investment banking. And so I had been 18 the last time, living with my parents the last time I was in Houston. So I didn't know where I wanted to live. I didn't know. I remember when I got my real estate license, my dad set me up with a lender to tell me the different loan products, a title company, because I didn't know what title insurance was. And that's how I learned. And then I went on 4 listing appointments with him, and he's like, son, okay, you're ready, and go do it. And fast forward to 8 or 9 years, and now we have, 5, I think, ancillary real estate businesses, and and growing the team. And now all I do is live, eat, breathe, sleep real estate. So
So actually, so you came into real estate in 2007, 2014, 13.
I think it was either 13 or 14. I think it was 13.
Yeah, so
January 13.
I came in 2014, and it was kind of a similar story, but different in that I realized that I was not going to go where I wanted to go or have the control over where I wanted to go in the industry that I was in. Which is why and mine was kind of an amalgamation. I had been in the corporate environment for a number of years, and I walked in one day and got on a conference call, and all I heard was, we just sold the company to our competition. Right. And I had just gotten this big promotion, and what's going to happen, first in, last out, or last in, first out. Right. And so I was the brand new promoted guy, and I knew I wasn't going to have a job, and so I immediately left and went and started a business in Houston. And then, I grew that to the extent of what I knew I could. And then I came into real estate in 2014 and 3x'd my income the first year and have just climbed since then. But, it's interesting because you bring a lot of knowledge that's non-real estate to real estate, right? And I think that that's such an important factor, because I don't remember what the number is, but there's something like 40,000, licensed agents in the greater Houston metroplex area or whatever. And, by the first quarter of the year, 17,000 of them have sold something. And the burn rate on the agents is crazy as far as, success ratios. But I think that when you've got that opportunity where you can bring almost like a previous life into this industry and know how to utilize it, you bring finance. I was in sales for 25 years and literally said, I got to go sell something more expensive. I want to put more zeros behind the sales product so I can put more zeros behind the profit.
Yeah.
And so talk about, in 9 years, growing it from a normal brokerage. I mean, and I say normal brokerage, I mean, you're the business that your dad built, that you guys, came into and took over and have run incredibly well, was not a small business. I mean, y'all were doing a lot of volume.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of volume, and with relationships, and he did the hard part. He had a very good name. He treated people well, and we had very good team members, some of which are still on the team to this day. And we bought the business from him. And really, in the back of my mind, it was about not screwing it up, because he did have a big, and I didn't know this. I knew my dad did well, but I didn't know how big of a deal my dad was until I got into the industry, because we didn't talk about that kind of stuff.
What's funny is there's this old saying in the Bible, no prophet is revered in his hometown. It's like,
yeah. But I didn't know until I started getting around the industry and people had really good things to say. And then I started knowing who did stuff and where we ranked, as far as numbers. And I think back then my dad was selling, 500 homes a year, 150 million-ish with like 4 agents. And he was heavy in production. To the day we bought the business, he was still going on appointments. And so everything I wanted to do was make him proud and sort of get out of people's heads that I was just Jimmy's kid. Me and Sarah were Jimmy's kids. Yeah. And so the only way to do that was to grow. And I still am young, but I was obviously younger and had an appetite to grow. And I don't, if you know the disc, I don't have a lot of S in me. So like change and risk and growth are not a big deal to me. It's sort of who I am. And so we took what he had and sort of just, we brought some business sense to it, because I did have that finance background, where we started, incorporating some systems he didn't have. And then we started expanding, sort of like what you're doing, Jason, is in real estate. If you want to grow a big team, you have to add agents and systems. But it's about recruiting. I mean, it really is. I mean, and so we went from 4 agents to 10 pretty quickly. And then we sort of stayed at 10 until we got some middle management to help us, in middle management, leadership team, a sales manager, a president. Now we have a VP of ops and a VP of marketing. So those 4 leadership positions we didn't have, and that allowed us to go from 10 agents to 25. And we're gonna try to be at 50 by the end of the year.
You know, a lot of what you're describing right there, there's this genius that works over at Cardone's. His name's Brandon Dawson. He started out selling hearing aids out of the back of a trunk, you know, because his parents had like a walnut farm and he didn't want to do that or whatever. And college wasn't his thing. And then he ended up growing this business into, like, I forget, a $2 billion sales company from, you know, hearing aid products and stuff, and knows all the EBITDA. And then he and his dad got started buying companies and then building them up and then taking them public and then selling them off. But one of the things that they talk about a lot is what they call platforming. And, you know, you have growth barriers, and you will never reach that next level until you go back and reinvent those platforms before you. So like you talked about, you know, we got to 10 agents, but we weren't really going to get bigger than that until we did these next steps. We had to bring in an operations manager. We had to do these other things. And even if you had gone to 25 agents, you probably would have backslid and lost a lot of them because you had not put the systems in place to actually take care of them, which is your operations manager, having him built in TCs, you know, all those different items. And I think that that's something that a lot of people really need to hear, is because everybody wants to go, you know, they want to, what you guys, if you don't mind, and tell me to get lost if you don't want to say, but what you guys do in sales last year?
We did just over 600 million. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I mean, in the EXP world, where does that put you guys ranked as teams?
So we were one, and then last year we were number 2. So we lost our throne. So our first 3 years we were the number 1 team, and now we're this number 2 team. And I haven't changed any of my social media, so if you look me up, it still says number 1 team. I've conveniently forgot to change that, but we are the number 2 mega team as of the last ranking. So,
and that's not like in the state of Texas or in Houston. That's throughout EXP worldwide.
Yep.
And that's what's the agent count now that we're looking at, like 80,000 or something?
They just passed 80,000 a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay, so number 1, and you guys have what, 25 agents?
25 now. Yeah. A lot of that growth though has been in the last 9 months. We were 10, 12, 15. We were probably 12 for a long time. And so we've started to add more people and more agents and refine our systems in the last 6 to 9 months. So we've gone from like 12 to 25 and continuing, but 25-ish right now.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, 600 million, you know, if you're looking at the Wall Street Journal and you look at all these other companies, 600 million, you're like, okay, that's a moderate sized company. When you're looking at a sales team of 25 people and even 14 or 15 that really probably did the meat and potatoes of that, those are huge numbers. I mean, those are not actually, I need a different adjective. Huge isn't the word. They're beyond huge.
We've always taken pride in that stat, and I think that is one of the things why we kept it smaller than we did, because we like to be small and do the numbers that teams that had 5 times the amount of people of us. But then our goals change and our desires change, and so, but yeah, we do a lot of volume per capita, and we take a lot of pride in that.
That's awesome. I mean, so I think we've already touched on this, but as we always talk about is, we kind of see where you came from and the background you're in. And I think so much of that is important because, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that your dad talked about money and he talked about investment. He didn't talk about real estate, but you ended up in the money and investment category, you know, and then circled back to real estate. And it's, you know, it's not an accident that you have generational farmers, right? I grew up as a farmer, you know, or I grew up around this. But then we also have the opportunity to build into other people. You know, you'll have that 22-year-old agent that comes in that wasn't raised understanding finance and everything else, but they've got a great attitude. They've got a great disposition. They're a people person. They care about the individuals, and you can build that into them. You know, what is your take? I mean, because obviously y'all have enjoyed a lot of long-term hold on the people that work for your team. right? I mean, it's not a revolving door. Most of the people that y'all bring in, you vet them really well. You know that they're good for the culture, and they're not there for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're there for 6 years.
That's super important to us. Our core values are super important to us. And you're right. Yeah, it's something we take pride in. I mean, in real estate sales, you're going to have people that come and go. And we have some of that, but our core people tend to stick with us for a while, and we continue to try to add more core people, and we've been able to do that. So
that's awesome. So as you come along and you've got those, so what's the youngest person on your team, if you don't mind me asking?
Youngest person, we probably have some agents in their early 20s.
Okay.
But we don't have like any 18-year-old that I'm aware of, unless
Well,
it's a new position. But we definitely have some people in their early 20s.
you know what I find interesting, and I'm reaching that point in life, right? I'll be next month, I'll be 48. And I start looking at, I think I'm old because like everything looks expensive and everybody looks young, right? So I think I'm just getting old, but I find it really interesting because it seems to me like there's more and more young people coming into real estate. And I think that that's a socioeconomic, it's real estate having been on fire since 2011. It's a lot of this, but what do you think about that number? I mean, because I think that's going to have a cultural change in a lot of real estate and in real estate technology and how things are done, social media. I mean, 10 years ago, you didn't have viral real estate agents, right? I mean, and now it's a thing. I mean, 25, probably 100 different real estate shows, and, all these like mega stars that are influencers and they sell houses. I mean, 25 years ago, if you sold houses, like, oh, he couldn't go to college, Yeah. I mean, it's really the industry has shifted, I think.
It has. And I think people have realized that being a realtor doesn't mean you just have to be a realtor. It means you can, go into the investment side and build wealth. You can go into other entrepreneurial activities and opportunities that you can create yourself, that is fed off having your real estate license, which is what I've been fortunate enough to do. And you're absolutely right. We don't really look at age when we're looking at people. We're on EOS. So I don't know if you've heard of EOS, but entrepreneurial operating system. Gino Wickman, who wrote Rocket Fuel and Traction, they have an operating system called EOS that is industry agnostic, and a lot of, I think there's some huge number, 100,000 companies are on EOS. And so part of what EOS talks about is having your core values, not just stuff that sounds good, but true to your core of what you want your business to be. Like ours are, expect excellence, do what you say, integrity, work ethic. So those, and I might be missing one. But that's how we hire, and that's how we make personnel decisions. If someone's not fitting our core values, then they're not going to last on our team. And so it's a very interesting exercise of running a business to try to find people that fit your core values, and that be sort of how you make decisions with people, because if you have a bunch of people fitting your core values, your mission's going to be accomplished and your goals are going to be hit. And so but in turn, we are getting a lot of new agents that are younger, because you're right, there's a lot of new people coming into the space more than ever, because I think the opportunity is bigger than ever in real estate, because you don't just have to be a realtor. You can do a lot of stuff like you're doing, like I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. What also I think is really interesting is, and even you're young enough or old enough to have seen this transition to everything is so global today, right? I mean, there was a time when I'm going to own my neighborhood, and I'm going to own this section of Houston, but now people are thinking so much bigger because we have so much visibility and connectivity. I did a podcast interview a couple of weeks ago. Matter of fact, it's dropping this week, with a guy in Santorini, that I had met, that's running a really cool business. And, he's in Greece and I'm over here, and we're having this great conversation. But at the same time, I think a lot of that makes more and more people thinking on the idea of scale, right? Because how am I going to scale? And, I would love to give you a second to kind of talk about what y'all have done, because cool. Yeah. You did 600 million last year, which is huge. But then, oh yeah, by the way, we launched a title company. We launched a hard money lending company. We bought a bunch of flips. We're buying some buy and holds. So you talk about EOS, and how important is it to have all that stuff locked in so that you can go onto those next ventures and that scalability?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head of why so many people are getting into space, because it's not just hey, I'm going to go and list a couple friends' house and people in my neighborhood and make 40 grand. And there are plenty of people that do that. And there are a lot of people that do worse than that or less than that, because a lot of people don't survive. But the opportunity can be seven plus figures. And I think that's attracting a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't want to be a realtor. I tell myself, I don't like to be a realtor. I'm a real estate entrepreneur, and I believe that it's not just a thing. I feel like that's what I love about real estate, is being an entrepreneur. And I think you have to have a core business in anything you do. All these entrepreneurs, and the big ones about, and obviously I'm not saying I'm anywhere close to Elon Musk or anything, but he had a core business, and we had a core business. And then we used that success in that business and got it to a systemized process and people, where we could leverage ourselves out of that business a little bit, and then create other opportunities that either were related to our core business, which has been the case for us, or you have more time to create a new business, which is what Musk has done, right? And so for us, we've been able to have some great leadership team to, boil down the 50, 60, 70 hours a week we used to work in the business. And now maybe we're working, 10, 15 hours because of the systems and the people and the leverage we have. And so it allowed us to create a title company that is also fed by the core business, but it also is more about the time I was able to build it. And then we did the exact same thing with title. And then me and my dad started a hard money lending business, and then saw what investors were making on some of those deals, and then found a partner to run that business. So a lot of these other businesses, because I knew what it took to systemize and hire and find the right partners, it allows me to do these other businesses because I know what it takes to run a business. And I'm not like spending 50 hours in any of those businesses, because family is important to me. And I do want my evenings and weekends mostly to be free. And if you only have 40 to 50 hours, you have to be very good at systemizing and finding the right people. And that's what we've been fortunate enough to do. And that's what's given us the opportunity to have multiple different businesses.
And so that's not to say that you're working 15 hours a week. You're just working 15 hours a week in 4 different directions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I love that. The big thing for me is always happy, never satisfied. And I'm always, if I stayed at the level that I'm at from now on, I would be more than okay. But it's my drive, and hey, I'm already doing this, and I think I'm capable of more, so I feel the obligation to try to do more. And it's not a greed thing, and it's really not even a money thing. It's a self-satisfaction thing. I get one trip on this merry-go-round, and I'm going to squeeze every drop of juice out of it.
And you're like me, the bigger you get is the more people in your life you can bring along, and the more opportunity you can give to people in your life. And so you're absolutely right. I'm making more money than I ever thought I would make. And it's not about money. It's more about creating a legacy and creating something, a business that lasts, or businesses that last for longer than I last. and give that opportunity, whether it be to other team members or family members. And that's what drives me. And I think you have a lot of that same thing in you.
Well, Andrew, before I let you go, I want to give you a second. So I know we got Envision Title, you have Eagle Point Lending. Obviously you have your personal investments. Obviously if they're on the south side of town, they should come talk to me. But if anybody in the greater Houston area is looking for a killer team or is in real estate looking to make an upgrade, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so we've been hitting our social media hard. So you can find us on any of the different social media. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook and can private message me on there, or the Franklin team website has my information on it. Reach out via there. So pretty easy to find. If we can help in anything or just want to talk real estate, just give me a holler.
Just look up the largest real estate team in Houston and it'll come up, I'm sure. Awesome. Hey, Andrew, really want to take the time and say thank you for coming out today. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you scheduling this with us, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Looking forward to do more business and looking forward to doing more of the business that we're already doing together. So I appreciate it again. And we'll make sure we get you a copy of the link so you can come back and see how amazing you look today.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the partnership.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.